Most people know the Odyssey as the story of a warrior trying to return home after the Trojan War, but Christopher Nolan's movie makes some major changes to Homer's original story, especially when it comes to the Greek gods, Odysseus' personality, the Cyclops, Circe, and even the ending. So, how much of the movie actually comes from the ancient epic, and what is the real, or more accurately, the original story of the Odyssey? Before we continue, here is your spoiler warning. This video contains major spoilers for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, including details about the final scenes. So watch the movie first if you do not want the ending revealed. Now let's begin. First, The Odyssey is not a true story in the historical sense. Odysseus, the Cyclops, Circe, the Sirens, Calypso, and the Greek gods all belong to mythology. However, the poem may have been inspired by real places, sailors, wars, and kingdoms from the Bronze Age. Homer's poem was probably composed around the 8th century BCE, hundreds of years after the period in which the story supposedly takes place. In the original epic, Odysseus is the king of Ithaca. He is married to Penelope and has a son named Telemachus. He spends 10 years fighting in the Trojan War. After Troy falls, he begins his journey home. But instead of returning quickly, the voyage takes another 10 years. During that journey, Odysseus and his crew encounter monsters, witches, gods, cannibals, storms, and several dangerous islands. One of the biggest differences between Homer's poem and Nolan's movie is the role of the gods. In the original story, the gods are not just symbols, they are real characters who directly influence almost everything. Athena protects Odysseus and helps Telemachus. Poseidon tries to stop Odysseus from reaching home. Hermes helps him survive Circe's magic, and Zeus decides the fate of his crew. The movie reduces much of this supernatural involvement. Instead, the story focuses more on Odysseus making his own decisions. The gods become more mysterious, symbolic, or open to interpretation. This makes Nolan's version feel more realistic, but it also changes one of the most important parts of Homer's world. Another major difference is Odysseus himself. In Homer's poem, Odysseus is extremely intelligent, but he is not always a good person. He is a warrior, a liar, a manipulator, and a brilliant strategist. Many of his problems are caused by his own pride. The most famous example happens during his encounter with Polyphemus, the Cyclops. In the original story, Odysseus tells the Cyclops that his name is Nobody. After Odysseus blinds him, Polyphemus screams that nobody is attacking him. Because of this, the other Cyclops do not come to help. Odysseus and his men then escape by hiding underneath the Cyclops' sheep. But after getting away, Odysseus proudly reveals his real name. This allows Polyphemus to call upon his father, Poseidon, and ask him to punish Odysseus. In Nolan's version, parts of this famous sequence are changed or removed. The nobody trick is missing. The escape happens differently, and the scene focuses more on survival and violence than on Odysseus's clever wordplay. The movie also presents Odysseus as a more traumatized and remorseful soldier. His memories of Troy and the people who died there become central to his character. Homer's Odysseus is affected by war, but the original poem does not portray him in the same modern psychological way. Nolan turns the story into something closer to an examination of guilt, trauma, and whether a soldier can ever truly return to normal life. The Circe section is also heavily shortened. In the original poem, Circe transforms Odysseus' men into pigs. Hermes gives Odysseus a magical plant that protects him from her powers. Odysseus confronts Circe, forces her to restore his men, and eventually becomes her lover. The crew remains on her island for an entire year. In the movie, Hermes and the magical plant are removed, and Odysseus has to solve the situation more independently. The entire episode also happens much faster. Calypso's story is changed in a similar way. In Homer's version, Calypso keeps Odysseus on her island for years and offers him immortality if he stays with her. Odysseus wants to return to Penelope, but he cannot leave until the gods intervene. Zeus sends Hermes to order Calypso to release him. In the movie, Odysseus appears to have more control over his departure. Once again, The gods are less important, while personal choice becomes more important. Several major parts of the original poem are also removed or reduced. These include Aeolus and the Bag of Winds, the Phaeacians, who finally transport Odysseus home, parts of Telemachus's journey, and several important characters in the underworld, but the biggest difference is the ending. In Homer's story, Odysseus returns to Ithaca disguised as a beggar. While he has been gone, a group of suitors has taken over his palace. They consume his wealth and pressure Penelope to choose a new husband. Penelope announces a contest involving Odysseus's bow. Only Odysseus is able to string it and shoot through a line of axe heads. He then reveals his identity and, together with Telemachus and his loyal servants, kills the suitors. Afterward, Penelope tests him. She says that their marriage bed should be moved. Odysseus immediately becomes angry because he built the bed around a living olive tree. It cannot be moved. This secret proves to Penelope that he really is her husband. In the original ending, Odysseus reclaims his home, reunites with his wife and father, and remains king of Ithaca. Athena eventually intervenes to stop further revenge and restore peace. Nolan's movie takes the story in a very different direction. Instead of simply restoring Odysseus to his throne, the ending suggests that he cannot return to his old life unchanged. Odysseus and Penelope leave Ithaca, while Telemachus takes responsibility for the kingdom. This transforms the ending from a victory into something more complicated. Homer's story is mainly about homecoming, identity, loyalty, intelligence, and the restoration of order. Nolan's version is more focused on war trauma, guilt, punishment, and redemption. In the ancient poem, Odysseus finally returns to the world he lost. In the movie, he reaches home, but understands that after everything he has done and experienced, he can never completely become the man he once was. And that may be the biggest difference of all. Homer asks whether Odysseus can survive long enough to return home. Nolan asks a darker question. After surviving the war and the journey, is Odysseus still worthy of calling that place home?